Hello, members of our Commonwealth. My name is Bidian Okoth, and I'm glad to speak to you about my candidature. I'm vying to be the Vice Chair of Partnership and Resources for the Commonwealth Youth Council, and I hope you can spare a few minutes with me to listen to why I'm vying for this candidature. My candidature is strongly domiciled on the fact that the Commonwealth represents 1.2 billion young people, and with that numbers, we should be in the forefront leading the fight towards achieving the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. A decade to go, the Commonwealth Youth Council needs to lead this conversation. As a member of the Commonwealth Youth Council Executive Board and leading the Partnership and Resources Committee, I will therefore ensure that we have meaningful partnerships, and hopefully I'm looking forward to ensuring that we have resources and the limited resources we get are put to the places that need it the most. I hope you can spend a few minutes to listen to what I have to say about this position. My first agenda in the journey of writing it ourselves, as we now decided to call it, is going to be on sustainable partnerships, which are partitioned into two places. One, streamlining with the Sustainable Development Goals, and the second one is going to work on the Commonwealth Youth Networks. On the Sustainable Development Goals, it's very important that the committee members of Partnership and Resources are trained, one, to understand the Sustainable Development Goal, and two, to facilitate workshops on Sustainable Development Goals. And therefore, it will be important that committee members are trained on this, and afterwards, they will work with the networks to ensure that their activities within the networks are mainstreamed along the Sustainable Development Goals. On the second part is working with our networks. Our networks are the one sustainable way of ensuring that there is sustainability in the activities we do. As we know, the networks are the one thing that have activities that are prolonged across one tenure, and the activities are based on one thing. For example, the Commonwealth Youth Peace Ambassadors Network is one of the networks that works along the thematic areas of peace, and therefore they work closely with partners that are aligned towards world peace and ensure there's collaborations across nations. Moving forward, these organizations, as long as they are aligned according to SDGs, they can get partners that are mainstreamed within these things, and therefore this leads to sustainable partnerships, which is definitely good for the Commonwealth. The second part of writing it ourselves is domiciled on the fact that the Vice Chair of Partnership and Resources. Therefore, I do have a role that comes to resource mobilization and also allocation of those limited resources. It's therefore very important to me that members of my committee, the Committee of Partnership and Resources, are educated on resource mobilization techniques, the basics of resource mobilization, so therefore they are able to provide advice and assistance to the national youth delegates and also importantly to the national youth networks, which we are strongly going to depend on this next mile that we are going to walk. A key second part on resource mobilization is actively seeking grants so that we can have resources that can help us run this as organization that we currently have. It's important that we apply for long-term grants that are able to sustain the Commonwealth Youth Networks because they have long-term projects. Some of these projects are 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. It's important that we have long-term grants that are able to help the Commonwealth Youth Networks to do their tasks sufficiently and also include as many national youth delegates as possible so that we can have some kind of cohesive movement together towards achieving a common goal. And within it, it's important that we have short-term loans. And maybe some of these short-term loans are what can be used by committees that are now belonging to the executive board of the Commonwealth Youth Council. Because short-term loans can do activity for, let's say, 3 months, 6 months. And maybe there are some advocacy training that needs to be done by the Commonwealth Youth Council committees. And maybe there are also some trainings, capacity building trainings that can be done. And I think this should definitely be based on that. It's important to me that during my 2-year tenure, that the resources are allocated to where they need it most. And therefore, most resources as possible should go to the networks because they are the people that engage the most number of Commonwealth Youth Council members as possible. We have a responsibility to engage 1.2 billion young people across the world. Let's do it the right way. Let's strengthen our networks. As I have said it before, I'll say it now, and hopefully I'll continue to say it as the Vice Chair of Partnership and Resources. As young people across the Commonwealth, we are the people destined to push for the rightful agenda for our young people, for our generation. When the books of history will be written in future, we need to ensure that it's written exactly the way we want it to be written. So we have to participate in writing it now. Let's write it now. Let's write it ourselves. Join me as we lead the Commonwealth Youth Council. Thank you.